Hi, and welcome to the fifth edition of the Digital Disruption series. This is episode 5, and after 4 episodes of the BFSI theme, which had multiple sectors and subtext sectors, we're moving into a interesting sector, which is the Indian FMCG sector. And you would recall when I started the Digital Disruption series about a few weeks ago, I said that I would premise it under two themes. The first one being how leading companies in a particular sector are adopting digital. The second theme was how digital first business model in a particular sector are disrupting incumbent business models. Today we're going to look at the Indian FMCG sector through a lens of five successful companies and kind of opine that what is going to happen next and what are the generic strategies and what is going to happen next for these companies. With that, let's start with the discussion. Digital disruption, episode 5, how top Indian FMCG players are responding to digital generic strategies. And we start our discussions with five great businesses and bespoke brands. And the first up, ITC, great company. It's actually a multi-business company which has interest from very well known for its cigarettes, interest from cigarettes, hotels, FMCGs, consumer product goods, and also agarbattis, stationaries, and so on and so forth. Very good margin at those scales, 27%. And not only that, it has meaningfully expanded over the last 10 years. However, its current CAGR is muted, probably because of the H1 last year's sales of cigarettes being significantly disrupted and supply chains being disrupted, where the revenues of the last year would be kind of muted. Having said so, a leading company in its space, however, not rewarded its shareholders well for reasons which are beyond my comprehension. The next company is Hindustan Unilever. Nobody needs an introduction of HUL. It has grown through mergers and acquisitions, organically also at a net margin of 17 plus percent and a CAGR of 15%. Truly one of greatest companies of the Indian corporate firmament. Third company that I want to talk about is Colgate, a leading oral care company, smallest of the five companies we cover, but known for its product innovation and distribution models. Britannia and Dabur complete our universe of bespoke companies. Both these scale companies have grown at high rates, maintaining very respectable margins, and have innovated in their product portfolios to stay relevant. Dabur has recently rebranded many of its products to message immunity as a key theme. Another thing that I want to point out right now, a lot of product innovation for these companies have happened around the big themes, which are big global themes of health, hygiene, wellness, and immunity. Now, having said so, you could define digital adoption under multiple dimensions. Now, in this video, for the context of this discussion, I choose three dimensions, which is how good their distribution models are and how they have innovated on distribution and products. The second is consumer engagement, how have they collected data and rebranded themselves, and the third is how are they future fit in terms of the world which is going to be digital, and are they really going to have the appetite to reimagine their analog operations and make it quasi digital right now. So these are the three vectors, and with that we will move into specific companies and specific vectors for discussion. The first one, as I said, is distribution and product innovation. Here we discuss how have these companies used digital technologies to deepen and widen their reach, and have they built sustainable technology models. What product innovations have happened which improves either ease or speed of product adoption. In this vector, we're going to cover all the five companies. All of the five companies have done fairly well. The second one is brand. How has the product portfolios been reimagined, followed by creating of purposeful brand experiences? How has social technologies been leveraged to gather insights and product re-engineering? Three companies doing exceptionally well. Future fit, how are these companies building a digital enterprise by systematically disbanding their analog core? How are they balancing the execution needs of today versus reimagining of the future? Four companies come up as tops. Now, what we need to realize that all of these three themes are very big themes, and to be able to excel in three of the themes equally is very difficult. So I would reckon a digital leader is one which does very well in two of the three themes, and therefore you will see in some of the themes, some of the vectors of digital adoption, a few companies have been left out. And when they're left out, I do not mean that they're doing poorly or do not have the vision around that particular vector. It's just that the other companies are doing better. Now, with that, I also need to tell you that all the information that has been put into the presentation has been sourced from publicly available documents, either financial reports, annual reports, investor reports, earnings calls, and so on and so forth. So whatever I have is from the public space. However, at certain points in time, at the end of the video, I will draw inferences using the data to say what is going to happen in the future. And that is the author's privilege to be able to take a view on data. So we can kind of talk about it, contest it in a chat through my YouTube channel. But that's how it is. Now, okay, so as I move on, we're going to go to the first company from a distribution and a product innovation standpoint, and that for us is Colgate. Now, Colgate e-commerce is an integral part of its distribution strategy. Its product makes alignment with multiple e-commerce platforms, as we can see, is pretty tight. Its product portfolio also has been defined, has been designed for its play in e-commerce channels. It has put in substantive efforts in digital marketing, where kind of creating the funnel and driving the throughput or increasing traffic through the funnel and improving its shopper's journey. Its revenues are growing at 13% year on year. The other important facet of Colgate's distribution strategy and its product roadmap is its focus on the naturals brand Veda Shakti. It is focused on building a platform based on its Veda Shakti line by entering into distinctive cares such as mouth spray and oils, and therefore pushing the envelope from being a pure oral care company to being a company which is bordering wellness and immunity, which is a bigger theme that the FMCG space across the world is taking up. Now, while these are very important dimensions of Colgate's distribution strategy, I'd like to call out Colgate's product innovation ventures, and what is very dear to me is the augmented reality based gamification toothbrush called Colgate Magic. It is a first app-enabled connected toothbrush designed for kids 5+ to make brushing fun while helping the kids develop good brushing habits. The advanced visual tracking system in the connector detects where and how to brush, and the kids travel through an augmented reality game and claim rewards inspiring them to brush, which is in my mind pretty cool and fairly cutting edge, if I may. Now, so next up, we're going to look at a couple of companies. We're going to look at Britannia and Dabur. With Britannia, e-commerce 4.1x growth in the last 3 years. It has tied up with grocers. Its NutriChoice portfolio is an e-commerce activation. On the other hand, I like to call out Dabur for two different things. One is they obviously have an Amazon kind of an tie-up, which is only one part of the story, and selling goods through Amazon is not particularly unique. But what is more important, Dabur is probably only FMCG player which has an e-commerce first portfolio. The products which are going to be kind of sold in e-commerce. Typically, e-commerce margins as opposed to e-commerce revenues, again in this space, is going to be 11 to 13%. Now, we're using the example of these two companies is to conclude e-commerce is significantly an important strategy. It is a generic strategy, but how you play out the platform and do the product fitment makes your company unique. Having said so, what I want to call out that in the FMCG space, there is a lot of focus on e-commerce, though it has a very humble base right now. There is a belief in e-commerce being a leading distribution channel, and it has been amplified post-COVID. However, when I look at insurance or the BFSI space, life insurance, I would believe that web channels would be grown more aggressively. But beyond the top tech, I do not see web channels being pushed in life insurance when I compare it with the FMCG industry. So that's a kind of a quagmire, or that kind of, I don't understand why these strategies are not being played out as well in BFSI. But this is a conversation on the aside as we kind of move on to see that what are the big boys doing when it comes to distribution models. And here we're going to talk about Hindustan Lever, which is obviously its e-commerce channels are doing well, driven by product design, which is again for e-commerce. 2x growth between pre and post COVID times. But what more important is connected stores. Now, connected stores has been an initiative, distribution channel model initiative for these companies for the last few years. However, what has been more important and heartening is that these connected stores have now come of age. And connected stores basically is an ecosystem which connects shoppers, stores, and retailers, covering demand generation, capture, and fulfillment. Similarly, ITC calls out smart trade as an important initiative where in their annual reports, or in their investor presentation, where they talk about retail tech, point of sale solutions, payments, and B2B2C and WhatsApp based ordering, which is pretty unique. Now, what is happening in these kind of organizations, that new linkage of firms with food aggregators, hyperlocal labs, courier firms are reshaping the old distribution model of dependency on retailers and wholesalers, which is actually a very big ask. The next one, the next theme, and we're going is about the brands, and this is a very big one for me as well. I mean, how are these companies, or how are the leading companies engaging with the brands in terms of kind of creating meaningful brand experiences, collecting data, investing in social commerce, using data from consumer speak, and bringing it back to reimagining their product proposition. And let us look at these great companies and their footprints in this particular subdomain of digital adoption. Now look at ITC. It has rebranded itself around hygiene, good for you, and free from whatever, free from sugar, free from fat, whatever, and convenience and on the go, which is actually creating a brand proposition which is unique to different cohorts or different users, which is surely a big evidence of how it kind of segments its customers and trying to understand them to be able to engage them differentially. And again, in case of ITC, it talks about a smart consumer, where you're driven by superior consumer insights, which gets into brand engagement. So this is a loop. So you try to understand the consumer better. With the understanding and the data, you got to engage the consumer better, improve its shopper experience in the journey, and make it a continuous tracking mechanism. Now, ITC has done significantly, which were events around brands engaging with Michelin chefs, which is the ITC Master Chef kind of contest, generating digital PR, community branding, focus communication, all centered around the needs of the customer. Pretty cool stuff. The other important thing, the big thing that is coming up is social marketing, influencer marketing. In influencer marketing, we have Shraddha and Shahid Kapoor on Colgate, Instagram, huge number of follower base, consumer attention, Sunfeast Dark Pharmacy for ITC, and its other associated products. Now, what we also need to understand is some data, right? TV commercials continue to be the biggest spender of advertisements, 52% of spend in FMCG players. But however, food and drinks, FMCG food and drinks brands are upping their game in online advertisement. In China, brands have adopted digital as a most preferred advertisement channel at 71% of their overall spend. Ad spend is going on digital. That's a huge amount. And if I take off China from the global ad spend, it is going to be 38% of FMCG players are spending on TV. When I'm coming to India, India is about 14% and growing, where TV commercials account for 64%. Okay, now when you look at Britannia, we have Virendra Sehwag and Sanjeev Kapoor picking up funky ads. Coming back to the most important question is, how important is social influencing? Now, I have tracked social media influencing for D2C food and wellness and apparel brands. Now, we have people like Mandira Kapoor and a lot of fitness enthusiasts who endorse these brands online, and it's a pretty unique thing. If you go to Instagram and the number of followers that you see in Instagram, you will see social influencing and social commerce increasing day by day in the Indian context, and therefore social commerce is something which will gain traction. However, at this point in time, it is only for certain niche users and niche social communities. But that does not take away from the fact that it is an important trend going forward, as you can see with all our leading companies actually engaging in social commerce. Dabur is probably not in this business right now, but there is some feeble evidence of their trying to use influencers also. But I wouldn't vouch for that. Okay. Now, moving on, we are going to look at the last segment, which is future fit, which is the digital ecosystem. Important question is, how good are these companies kind of shoring up their back-end systems, their distribution management systems, and connecting them with their front-end systems. Now, typically in an FMCG space, like in most other industries in India, you would have fragmented applications of digital, but these companies, which is HUL, Britannia, and ITC, are creating an integrated end-to-end change program. So therefore, they are integrating the consumer connect with the store connect and agile operations. Now that is a very, very significant highlight of adopting digital. Now these companies, FMCG companies, are not going to be digital native. They are analog plus companies. The question here is, how are they using digital technologies holistically to create value, and how are they collecting this to be in staying up with customer preferences, using data and order fulfillment, which is real time. To that extent, they are put in the foundation blocks of the digital transformation journey very, very strongly. And that is why these companies are showing evidence of being able to ward off any significant threat that a digital incumbent or a digital first business model would be able to pose to them. However, there would be digital first business models whose understanding on the net of understanding of internet dynamics would be better, but they will not be scale enough to produce a significant impact on these companies. So a big thumbs up for the strategies and implementation stuff that these companies are doing. Now, as we come to the end of our discussion, we go back to the so what questions to say, then therefore, how do we conclude and what are the things that are likely going to happen? Now, here are 4 points. The future of FMCG is online. We are talking 130 million shoppers and a addressable market opportunity of $100 billion by 2025, which is significant. And therefore, understanding the dynamics of the net, which all of these people are doing significantly, is where the battle is going to be. Digital D2C FMCG brands will grow, but will address very niche segments. So there will be brands which will come up with very niche product segments in the food and beverages market. They will be probably, to start with, out of reach from an average consumer and will not attract an average consumer. They'll be bespoke and very niche, and will grow over time, but not going to eat away into the significantly into the revenues of the FMCG brands. The other important thing beyond these 5 companies, online advertisement and managing the funnel and conversions is going to be an expensive affair. Companies with deep pockets, like the 5 that I talked about, or true believers of digital first business models will excel, and will be able to sustain it in the short and medium term. Now, the other important thing which I see as a very important aspect of digital capabilities is how well do I understand the World Wide Web, which is digital marketing, in terms of when I put in an ad, how do I do page ranking, how do I do keyword search, general second purpose, second principle auction of Google, all these important methodologies, how do I understand them deeply, or do I outsource it? Now, I would tend to argue digital marketing, digital supply chain, and in the between, the distribution model are the key competencies of the FMCG players to become leading digital companies in this part of the world. Now, all of these companies have had a great start, and in all likelihood, they're going to do very, very well, surpassing their competitors and warding off any threats that could come from competing or alternative digital first business model. So to summarize, FMCG in India is very well positioned to growth, and with the growing Indian middle class, we've heard of this over and over again, disposable income, change of demographics, online and digital is here to stay, and it is to stay and grow. The question here is, what percentage of the revenues will it account for? While all the data is showing by 2025 it's still going to be around 10 to 15% revenues, I would say beyond 2025 it is going to have an exponential curve, and it is going to be significant, where the rural outreach of these companies are going to be stronger. So what they have done in connected stores, or all these models which are doing well in tier 1, tier 2 cities, when they go into tier 3, and we have products even designed more meaningfully for the rural India audience, we are going to have a huge deluge of adoption of digital technologies. With this, we end this discussion, and I hope you liked it. If you liked the content, do share Share as you deem fit, show us some love and subscribe to our channel. In next up, we're going to talk about probably mobility, retail tech, digital healthcare. I mean, digital healthcare is something that's again coming up in India, and we're going to kind of dive deep into multiple dimensions of digital healthcare, from telemedicine to medtech, to therapeutic online therapies and home therapies and so on and so forth. So wait for a big series around digital healthcare coming up. And thank you for your time and thank you for watching.